talk about the Panthers for a second, though. On the day they fired Matt Rule, David Tepper, meeting with the media, was asked by Darren Gant, who works for the team. So it's kind of a gutsy question to ask your boss. I respect that by Darren. Basically, how do you strike the balance between winning games during the remainder of a lost season? That wasn't Darren's word, but that was the gist of it, versus getting yourself to the top of the draft order. And Tepper said what he had to say. You try to win every game. We try to win. We always try to win. We always try to win. Okay, fine. Well, then why'd you trade Christian McCaffrey if you're trying to win every game? You're not trying to win every game. You're not. You're thinking about the future. You're consciously making your team worse this year in an effort to get picks that will make your team better and possibly more attractive to whichever coach you're trying to hire next year. That's it. That's the truth. And they're never going to admit it, and the NFL is never going to want them to admit it, but they have engaged in not a full-blown fire sale. Who knows? There's still another week and a half left in the trade period. But they've traded away one of their best players, one of their biggest assets, for 4 draft picks because they're thinking about 2023 and beyond. They're not thinking about 2022. So, of course, they're tanking. Whatever words you want to use, rebuilding, I guess that's a fancier version of tanking. But they're setting short-term, win-the-game interests aside in the name of long-term, put a team together that can win mentality.
Mike, we oftentimes, when things like this happen, we say, well, if the season ended today, blah. Well, if there were no more football games, the Carolina Panthers today would have the first pick in the 2023 NFL draft. And, I think one of the reasons that makes that very interesting is that now they're in the pole position to win the first pick in the draft. And David Tepper saw what happened in Miami. Okay? You know what happened in Miami? Toward the middle and end of the season, everybody knew that they wanted the first pick in the draft. After Joe Burrow beat Alabama, whenever that was, in November for LSU, after that happened, everybody knew that Joe Burrow was the first pick in the draft. Excuse me. So now Miami finishes with the 5th overall pick in that draft because, because obviously they won too much down the stretch, and that probably enraged Stephen Ross. From what we hear, enraged might be too strong a word, disappointed at least. But what the Carolina Panthers have done in enriching their draft stock for the next couple of years with these 2 trades this week, even though the Robbie Anderson thing was just a minor deal, if they're able to get the first pick in the draft next year, then they're going to have their choice of whoever turns out to be the best quarterback in this crop in a pretty good year for quarterbacks. And if I am the Carolina Panthers, I'm doing just what I have to do to be in the pole position to get the number 1 pick in the draft.
And it's not tanking. We're evaluating our young players. We're assessing who's going to be here long term. We're trying to figure out what we have, yada, yada, yada. Just don't call it tanking. The NFL is fine with it as long as you don't publicly say what you're doing. The Browns had a formula on a 4-year plan with all sorts of factors that created financial incentives for the coaches in the front office, and those factors were not tied to things that would lead to winning. Lowest, if you have among the 5 lowest actual payrolls for the year, you get more money. If you stockpile a certain number of draft picks, you get more money. That's an incentive to rebuild and to think about the future over the present. And the NFL didn't whack them for that. The NFL doesn't want people to realize that tanking happens. So the NFL is going to look the other way whenever, wherever, however it can to say it's not tanking even when it is. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.